Did you have any fear when you started?
Absolutely. I'm not Superman. I'm human. You know, I can't beat Michael Jordan. Certainly can't beat Mike Tyson and those guys. So that makes me human level like the average person. I'm no nothing superhero. Was I nervous? Absolutely. But I also knew, as I just said, I had to overcome my fears, or had to overcome the unknown, had to grab the bull by the horns and jump in there. But the bottom line is, there's some other. If you look on the other side of the track, there's people that are successful there. There's people from all walks of life. Some were handed their golden spoon. Some from the ground up created what they have, and all of them are on the other side of the track. Why can't I be there? There's no Michael Jordans over there. These people are just like me. They're not 6 feet tall or 7 feet tall or being able to punch a hole in the wall. They're just like I am. They put their pants on in the morning, one leg at a time. So what makes them different to me? Some of them maybe they're a little faster at the thoughts than I am. But if there's a will, there's a way. Anybody who wants to do real estate, who wants to become an investor, no matter where your level is, whether you've got a golden spoon or you have no spoon, like me, from my story, or if you have no spoon, you can make it. Just gonna have to, you may have to work a little bit harder than the person who has the golden spoon and everything that was handed to them. A lot of people don't know that Donald Trump started off, father gave him $200,000. No, I'm sorry, 200, I think it was $200 million to start his business, to go into the real estate business. So he was given a little golden spoon. He didn't just start from some poor kid in Brooklyn. He leaves that out a lot. But there's others who started with nothing. I believe I believe his mentor started with nothing. And
George
eventually
Ross?
George Ross, his mentor, started with nothing, and he's mentoring Donald Trump. So what does that tell you? If there's a will, there's a way. The struggle is going to be a little bit harder for some than others, but there's no short answer or fast. There's no short, fast answer for it. Suck it up, make it happen.
What makes you different than the other 290 people at the seminar?
Well, I wouldn't say physically, I'm no different than anyone else. As I said before, one leg at a time, the same way, or one sock at a time if they're putting a dress on. The only difference, it comes down to determination, just the will to be successful and willing to make sacrifices where many aren't. I don't look for an excuse for whatever I don't. If I set out for something and I'm not successful, I have a goal and I'm not successful with achieving that goal, I don't look for excuses. Because if you look for excuses, believe me, Lord, you're going to find more than you anticipate. The list goes on. So I don't look for excuses. I just look for solutions. I say to myself, if I fall down or get knocked down, I'll just pick myself up and brush my shoulders off and say, well, let me try it again, but try it a little different. Put a little bit recipe, a little bit different in it, and try it again. And if I get knocked down, I'll get up and I'll just try it another one. That's the bottom line, is to be determined, be willing to make sacrifices. No is not an option. Failure is not an option. And with anything the average individual, you'll become successful. I mean, another example is, I don't think I can train as much as I like. I don't think I can step in the ring with Mike Tyson. Many have tried, and that's just not. It's not going to physically. It's not going to work for me. But real estate, it will, because the odds are even. The playing field's even. You can be 6, 7 feet tall. You can be 4 feet tall. You can be disabled. You can be able to run a marathon. You can win the spelling bee. You can barely know how to spell. The odds are even.
Wow. So, what is it about? You talk a lot about determination and just that will, that desire to succeed. How do you actually do that? What is it that you do when you hit a stumbling block that allows you to keep or the guy would have said, "This is $50,000, and I'm not taking any less." You know, why do you have that ability to say, "I'm going to get it," and you get it for 15,000?
Well, that's kind of like a two-part question. The first part, why, what gives me the determination? For me, everybody needs a reason to get up every morning. Everybody needs a reason. You know, if you land there and you hear people, I don't have a reason to do anything today, or I don't have a reason to live. Generally, you read about them in the paper. You know, you find them and they got a bottle of pills next to them. That's not me. I have a reason to get up every day, and that reason generally is my family. I want to be able to leave a legacy for my kids and the grandkids that will come around, and many others as I'm no longer here. I want to be able to leave something. It has to start somewhere. Every family that you see, they're successful. Somebody made the sacrifice and started somewhere. It might have been a century ago, grandpa this or grandma did that, and today they are where they are. The family's in the position they're in because somebody made the sacrifice and created a legacy for the family. So my determination is that I got to somebody in my family. We weren't born with golden spoons. You know, somebody has to start it, and why not me? So my drive every day is I think about that. What can I do to make things a little bit easier for my family? You know, be it that financially, educational wise, whatever it is. What can I do to make things a little bit easier for the ones behind to come behind me? Of course, right now, they don't appreciate it. You know, they don't show it. You know, but they don't know. They're young. So my drive is to be able to leave a legacy, to enjoy my life. You know, I want to enjoy the finer things of life myself. They say you don't live until you turn 40. So I want to enjoy life, and at the same time, I want to start to build and leave a legacy for them. The second part to your question, you asked me, how did I get the house at 15 grand when this homeowner wanted 50 grand? Comes back to it's a simple way of answering that is do your homework. You get into this business. You can truly get into this business with little to no money. I won't say no money, because when you hear people say, when you hear people say, oh, you can get into this business, it doesn't cost you a dime, you don't need any money. I think that's stretching the truth a little, because you need some money. You need money to do anything. You can't go to work and get on the bus for free. So you know, when people say, oh, you can commute, you need money to just simply go to work every day. When your kids go to school, they got to buy lunch. So it costs money to do everything. It's just on different levels. I believe, and I know for a fact, you can get into the real estate business with little to no money. Just, you can't come in zero, because you can't. I don't believe in America, or for the world for that fact, you can do anything for free. And if you can for free, you have to be wary and look over your shoulders and wonder when is the hammer going to come down. So you need a little money. And then answering the question kind of, I took a little bit of money and got me some flyers. And I started advertising myself as a real estate investor with a little bit of money, and looking for people who would buy the properties that I would put under contract. I can only do that by advertising. I can only advertise with putting out literature. Literature costs money. It doesn't have to be a lot of literature. It doesn't have to be on Fox 5 News or radio stations or just massive marketing mailings that you hear people do. You can, if you have, you have more time than you have money, then you apply more time. And with a little bit of money, you have more money, you make things. It does make things a little bit easier, speeds things up. But if you don't have it, you don't have it. You got to start from somewhere. It's called determination. You got to start, fit in where you can, make your own place. But I started knowing, getting to know the neighborhoods of the buyers, the people that I spoke with who wanted to buy the properties. I got to know the neighborhoods, kind of what I said earlier. How did I get the house for 15 grand? Because I already knew what it was going to cost to fix the house up. I already knew what the house would resell, what the house would resell for on the market. I already knew what my buyers, the buyers list that you have to create, I already knew what they're going to pay for the house. I already know that they're going to pay me anywhere between, I don't know, the average house, I would say $40,000 to $50,000 in the average condition. But keep in mind, as I said earlier, this house was a hoarder that lived there. The house was vacant for 20 years. Example, leave your car outside for 20 years and come back and see what it looks like. You know you're going to put some work into it. Same thing with a house. You leave it there, the only occupants of the home is Rudolph, the little red bear or bird, and the squirrels in the neighborhood. They're the only person who lives there, and they don't keep the house too tidy. So you're gonna have to do some work in the house. So I know that my buyers again will pay me anywhere between 40 to 50,000 for the average house. But as I said, this wasn't the average house, so I know now that number is going to come down. I know all of this because I was in a neighborhood before. It's just like going to, I don't know, a haunted house. If you run through the haunted house once, you're going to be scared. You run through it twice, you may be a little spooked. But the third time when you come to there, you know that guy's going to jump out behind the third door. When you go around the crate, you know there's going to be some lady with her head cut off. You already know these things. Same thing with the houses. Go through the neighborhood. You know what to expect. So I know my buyers. I know what they're going to pay. I know what the neighborhood looked like. All of this because I did it. I've kind of pre-inspected the neighborhood before before I started advertising to the sellers, the homeowners in the community. So I pre-analyzed, pre-inspected the neighborhoods of the neighborhoods that the buyers that I have advertised to want to buy in. So I already know. That's how I knew I knew I wasn't going to pay 50 grand for the house, because remember, my buyers are only going to pay me between 40 and 50. How can I buy for 50 and sell it for 50? I'm not making any money. So I knew I wasn't going to do that. Time, strategy, past experiences, again, tell me don't try to buy the house over the phone. Get at the kitchen table. You got to overcome your butterflies in your stomach of talking to people, sitting at that kitchen table. You got to be confident and sound like you're confident in yourself, and you're asking the average person to sell their most valuable asset. Unless they're multi-millionaires where they own ships, and aircrafts, the average person's most valuable asset is their home. Then it's their car, but it's their home. And when you're negotiating with their most valuable asset, you have to sound confident. The only way you can be confident is you repeat something over and over again to build up your confidence. So this is more of a teaching. Real estate is more of educating yourself, teaching yourself to be confident, know the neighborhood, know the house that you're in. You may not have been in that particular house, but you were in one around the corner, up the street, and it's the same square footage. The wall may be here and not over there, but it's the same house. You don't have to venture 50 miles away from where you live. You can work in your own backyard, depending on where you live. Now, if you live in the suburbs and your house and the next house is 6 miles down the street, then okay, hey, you got to go to a neighborhood that's a little more compact. Or you want to go where your buyers are telling you to go. This is for wholesaling. But you gotta dot your I's, cross your T's, know the neighborhood, know the house, know more or just as much about the house as the person who's selling it. And again, just practice on your confidence and your ability to be able to speak to people at the kitchen table.
What makes a good neighborhood?
Wherever your buyers want to buy, that's a good neighborhood. Wherever they want, that's your neighborhood. Unless you're looking for yourself to move into a property in a particular neighborhood, who controls and who says what's a good neighborhood? Wherever the buyers list that you've created said they want to be, that's your neighborhood.
What is a buyer's list?
Okay, a buyer's list. A buyer's list are investors, the people who have what you don't have, the cash to buy the houses. Remember, if you're coming into this with little to no money, how you gonna buy a house? There's a way that you could buy one. You could. That's another segment. You could go get a hard money lender, get a loan, but you still need cash for that. Because if you're coming in with little to no money, you don't have the money to buy a house, to do the closing, to pay what a hard money lender, they charge interest and points. They charge money to borrow money, essentially. And you have to have the small down payments to pay these people. So if you have little to no money and little to no experience, trying to buy a house and rehab it out of the bat is, right off the drop is not going to work. That's what most people fail at. They come into this and they just don't have all the tools. In failure, it's easy to say I can't and quit and give up. So the fastest, easiest route would be to go into wholesaling, where it takes you little to no money, but it's going to take your time. It's going to take sacrifice. You would scratch that, man. I forgot your question again.
No worries. I was asking about a buyer's list. Like
Okay, buyer's list. Well, a buyer's list, again, is a person who has the cash to purchase the house, as where you not in that position. You're wholesaling properties so that you can make the cash so that you can start eventually, if that's where you want to take it, you can start buying your own properties and rehabbing them, fixing them up and reselling them yourself. But a buyer's list is, again, the person, the investor who has what you don't have, the cash to finish the project, to come in and buy where you started the negotiations. They'll come in, pick up from where you left off, purchase the house, and do the complete rehab or whatever they intend to do with it. What is what they want to do? But the bottom line is, he who has the cash is king. If you're a newbie, you're coming into this, your goal is to wholesale as many properties as you possibly can obtain, get under contract to people who are buyers, cash in buyers. Your buyers, as I kind of said earlier, your buyers are, when you first get into this business, the first thing you want to do is go after, create yourself a buyer's list. This will kind of acknowledge you, point you in what's the word, right terminology? I guess point you in a direction of the neighborhood that you want to start to learn and familiarize yourself with. You let the cash buyers tell you where to go. You can get cash buyers many ways. There's many ways to find cash buyers. Just real quick, I have many, but I'll throw one or two at you. You can go to any public auction, real estate auction, not auto or all kinds of auctions out here, but real estate, foreclosure auctions. Guess who's there buying the houses? Cash buyers. You can, houses that are in the neighborhood that have sold. When you're walking neighborhoods, in your own neighborhood, when you see a house being rehabbed, fixed up, meaning you're seeing a crew of people there and they're putting new windows in the house, new front doors, and doing landscaping. This house, that's what's called a rehabbed house. A cash buyer has bought that house. How do you know it's a cash buyer? Because banks today won't lend on houses that are unlivable. For the average loan, there have some loans out here that's another topic, that will allow you to buy a house that needs to be fixed up. But for the average, you'll see that's a cash buyer who bought that house. Ask. But one of the fastest, most affordable ways is just go to auctions, because it doesn't cost you anything but your time. It costs you your time. You go to auctions and you mingle around and ask who's who. You can do this in any city, in any state across the country. There's auctions across the board.
Okay, so you're at an auction, you're mingling. What do you say to get someone?
What I would say is I would start off with Vista Printing, not advertising them, but they're the most fast and affordable way to get yourself some business cards. You got to be able to connect. People don't remember that your name is, William Smith when you leave, but people can look at a card. and you can look at theirs. So I would get myself some cards, and I would go to these auctions and do exactly what I did. And what did was sit back and analyze it first and see who's who. Almost like a predator and prey. You sit back and you watch and you see what's going on. And this large group of people that are raising their hands and they're bidding on this property, you have to say to yourself, well, they're selling this property for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. And the auctioneer has already explained the instructions before he or she has started. And they'll say, hey, the money's due in 45 days. You got to give me $1,500 a day to be able to raise your hand to bid on this house. And you owe me the balance in 45 days. Well, you're looking at all these people that are raising their hands. So obviously, they have the $1,500 because they can't raise their hand. They have more than you already. Well, that's how it was for me when I'm sitting there at these auctions. They had more in their pocket than I had already because they were able to raise their hand and I wasn't. So I said, well, they're a little bit step up from me there. Then I noticed that the property sells for $50,000 and they have to come up with this money in the next 30 to 45 days. Well, there's only two ways that they can do that. Either they have the money already or they have access to the money, which means they are who? They are cash buyers. They're not me. That's where I want to be. So I would introduce myself to the ones who identify themselves by raising their hands that they're cash buyers. And as the auction is over, I'd walk up to this individual. Remember, you got to get confidence. If you're shy, always hide behind in the shadows, you never speak up. You kind of, you're real timid. You don't have thick skin. People hurt your feelings when they say things. You've got to put all that, chuck that to the side, and you've got to be that lion when you're doing this business. You can't be a gazelle, if you want to call it that. You can't be in the closet, or get someone else to do it for you. I haven't seen a way around that where you can sit back and let someone else represent you. You've got to represent yourself. You've got to have a nerve of steel, grab the bull by the horns and be that lion. If you ever watch any national, I'm big on National Geographic stuff. Anybody who watches that, the lead of the pride is always the lion. He don't back down. If he runs, then all is lost. You need to be able to real estate. Doing this wholesaling, buying some people's most valuable asset. It's really, you have to be a negotiator. You have to be able to know how to negotiate. Knowing how to negotiate is a lot of it's trial and error. But one thing that's certain is confidence. If you don't believe in you, then who will? And it'll show at the table. When you're talking to somebody about one of their most valuable assets, to some people you might as well be talking to them about their kids. And if you talking to them as if you're loosey goosey, then the deal is going to go exactly that route. Granted, in the beginning, guess who's going to be doing that? You are. When you're first negotiating, you're starting. That's what I mean by you're going to fall down. You're going to lose a deal. You're going to have people throw you out of the house, tell you to get out of here. Or I've had people tell me, curse sit at the kitchen table. I've had people curse me out, call me out of my name, call me racist names. Tell me to get out of the house. I remember one house I went in. I carried this little my little briefcase with my documents in it. I've gone to a house and got thrown out of the house because I in the homeowner's eyes, I disrespected him by offering him such a low price for his house that he had titanium nails in the roof. So to me, the bottom line was it was a learning experience. I can't offend people. Sometimes you offend people with, they raised in this house as a child, or the house was given to them by their parents or whoever. And this is sentimental. This is almost as precious to them as their dog or their child. Or, some people would rather sell somebody the house for less if he knows he or she's going to take care of it. People are are people. People that have different, can't try to figure it out, but some people are just sentimental. You riding down the street, you hit some people's car, they'll kill you. Some people get out and say, don't worry about it. So you've got to build up your negotiating skills, be confident in yourself, and it'll show. You got to learn to pick yourself up when you fall down, because Lord knows I've been down. And you got to learn what to say and what not to say. The only way to do that is to get yourself in the field, jump out there in it. Somebody can preach it. You can look at a CD. You can read till your eyes hurt. But ain't nothing like sitting at a person's table and building your confidence up, so that it's a lesson learned. You're learning as you go. Build your confidence up and be able to negotiate, know what to say and what not to say. What I learned real quick is not to talk bad about somebody's house, what I may think, or what it really may be, which may be a piece of garbage, maybe one step away from the city putting a condemned sign on it, but to them, it's everything. So you got to learn that, and more importantly, if anything, have your confidence up and work on that, and be ready to negotiate with people eye to eye, and learn as you go, fake it till you make it, and just get better at it. But keep your confidence up.
So just going back to not offending somebody about their house. Now, just to reiterate, you were late getting to this shoot today because you were closing a deal. And it was a hoarder style home. So it's obviously an awful house. You don't even want to walk. The guy didn't even want to walk into the house. So the way that you went about, if I understand correctly, negotiating was to not say this is a terrible house, but to point out the cost. Am I right?
Right. What I did was, again, this came from experience. This came from me being told, go get in your car and get out of here. If I can get to my gun upstairs before you get to your car, we're going to see what happens. I've been thrown out of a house, so I've learned what to say and how to say it. When I came to the house, I looked and I saw the house was like, this was just the county inspector hadn't driven down that street yet. That's the only reason there was no sticker on the door telling you this was inhabitable, don't go in here, you're at your own risk, house about to fall down. First thing I said to this guy was, this house must be sentimental to you. It looks like, this was your aunt's house. Did you guys grow up here? That was the first thing I said to him. I said, does this sentimental value, this house has any sentimental value to you? Because, and he started talking about how his aunt was back in the early 60s, she was a gun runner, that's what he started telling me about. And there was some semi-automatic, antique, historical machine gun somewhere in that house that he couldn't find it, and she was too old to remember where she even put it. So the conversation, that's how I broke into the conversation. I didn't come and say, man, look at this thing, because I learned from being pushed down before, prior to that you don't approach a person that way. Let them tell you the story. Spark the conversation and let them tell you. They'll always tell you the story. They'll vindicate all the time, because that's what people like to do. They like to tell. They want somebody a shoulder to listen to what their problems are, or what's on their mind, or however their day is going. They want to vindicate. And that's how I always approach a homeowner. When I walk into a person's house, I couldn't find it in this house, so I start talking about sentimental things. But when I walk into a house, no matter how godly, ugly, or awful it may be, I'll always find something to say, an interesting piece to start talking.